Welcome to a short lesson on factoring trinomials. In order to factor a trinomial, we want to break that trinomial down into two binomials. You can kind of think of this like you're doing FOIL backwards. So the trick to doing this is figuring out what the constants are going to be. I know that I'm going to start by having two binomials. The factors of x squared are going to be x and x, but the big question is always, what comes next? So the trick to figuring this out is, I like to do this as a little table, and I like to ask myself, what can I multiply, and I use an x for multiply, that will give me 8, but I could add those factors, and they would equal 6. So if I start with factors of 8, I have 8 times 1. But if I add 8 and 1, I get 9, and that's just not going to work. I could also do 4 times 2. That gives me 8, and sure enough, if I add 4 and 2, I get 6. So this is my winner. These are the factors that I want to use. So over here, back to my parentheses, I'm going to put 4 and 2. And in this case, since my 8 is positive and my 6 is positive, I want positive 4 and positive 2. So I'm going to put in an addition symbol for both. And that is how I factored the trinomial. In my next example, I'm going to do one that's a little bit different. I have x squared minus 10x plus 16. Because I have no coefficient in front of the x, I automatically know that my first two terms will be x and x, because x times x is x squared. Now what I'm looking for are some terms that if I multiply them, I get 16, but if I add them, I'm going to get 10. So I could start with 16 times 1, but when I add the factors, I get 17. I could do 4 times 4, but 4 plus 4 gives me 8. I could also try 8 times 2. 8 times 2 is 16, and 8 plus 2 is 10. So, I do have a winner here. These are the factors that I want to use. So I know that I will have 8 and 2. But I have to be cautious. Positive 8 times positive 2 does give me a positive 16. However, if I add 8 and 2, and they're both positive, I would get a positive 10, whereas I am looking for a negative 1. So in this particular case, I want to use negative 8 and negative 2. Negative 8 plus negative 2 gives me negative 10, and a negative times a negative is still a positive. If I wanted to double check that I had actually done this correctly, I could use FOIL. So if I were to FOIL this binomial, I would get x times x is x squared. For outer, x times negative 2 is minus 2x. Inner is minus 8x. And last would be negative 8 times negative 2, which is positive 16. These are like terms yielding x squared minus 10x plus 16. So I can confirm that yes, in fact, I did do this correctly. Sometimes you have an example in which the last number is negative. So let's take a look at one of those. In this case, I'm going to start with x squared plus 2x minus 15. Again, because my first term is x squared, I know my first two factors will be x and x. And I'm going to make my little table over here. And I want numbers that will multiply to be 15, but since this is a negative 15, I want numbers that if I subtract, I will get 2. So my first factors of 15 would be 15 times 1. But if I do 15 minus 1, I get 14, and that just won't work. I could also choose 5 and 3. 5 times 3 is 15. 5 minus 3 is 2. So here's the set of factors that I'm looking for. And I'm almost done. The key step here is that I have to take a look at the symbol that I want for the middle term. Since I want to have a positive 2, that means that I want to do positive 5 times negative 3. So my first factor will be x plus 5, and my second one will be x minus 3. When the middle term is positive, the larger factor will be positive. If the middle term had been a negative 2, then I would have made the 5 negative and the 3 positive. I hope that these examples will help you to complete your homework.